The journaling, the dialectical behavior therapy, and the mindfulness exercises are truly the way for me to be proactive with my mental health, because medication's not enough. Are we serious? I bought a variety pack of Dahlia Tubers from Home Depot, and they're supposed to be like yellow, white, red, and I think all of them are pink and purple. Now, granted, a few of the plants perished in the heat wave, but one would assume that there'd be more than just pink and purple left over after just a couple plants dying, right? Nevertheless, the remaining dahlias seem to be thriving, and I guess that's what matters. The last few days, I've actually been quite ill. I think I have like an idiopathic stomach ache from like stress and, just the lack of sleep and everything the last couple of months. I don't know, it just feels like I swallowed like an acidic brick. And it's just sitting there, and it's like I can't eat anything, but I feel like bad because I haven't eaten, you know what I mean? It's just like one of those things that's a double-edged sword. You're like screwed either way. And I don't know if I've really talked about this much, but Kameron seems to be one of those babies that just really needs a lot of mental stimulation. Like, he wants to be entertained. He wants to look at things. He's very much like he wants to see the world. He wants to look at different sensory things. And so I'm like set up his play gym with all these different toys and different noise making things and different textured things. And like he'll be really interested in something for a while and then he'll get bored of it and want something else. He did this all day the other day. Like, he was awake for almost 7 hours. I want to say it was like from 4 a.m. to about 10:30-ish in the morning. He just was wide awake and super interested in looking at things. And if I kind of didn't, entertain the little bugger, he'd get really fussy. And it was just, all day back and forth, like, do you like this? Do you like that? No? Okay. Well, then yesterday was sort of the same thing. He did take a lot more naps, and they were like, not super long naps, but he did sleep like at some intervals. But it was still the same thing of like, I want to be stimulated, lady. Like, stimulate me with something. And it took me a long time to figure out what he wanted. And eventually I just took him to the window and he stared out the window like, oh my gosh. So I pulled his bassinet up to the window and I laid him in his bassinet and he stared out the window for an hour. He didn't sleep. He stared out the window for an hour. I mean, I'm almost sitting here thinking like I need to find like toys that light up or something, because he seems really interested in light and like anything that's flashing or flickering or, light coming through the blinds, or the sun was coming through the clouds yesterday and that's what he was just like, oh, staring at. So needless to say, like my stomach ache came to a head yesterday, and I felt like the only thing that was going to cure it, because I tried Tums, I tried probiotics, I tried a lot of different, natural remedies and medicines for my stomach, but I really do think it's like an idiopathic stress stomach ache. So I just told Kameron, I was like, I need you to pretty much take over for one night at least, so I can just sleep a whole night and see if that helps. And last night, apart from me getting up and giving Kameron his pacifier a couple of times, I slept the whole night and I feel so much better today. Oh, Kameron's waking up. I think I need to feed him.
Your jammies are cute though. They're super cute.
I guess another cool thing is that he is starting to go about 4 hours between feeds, sometimes 5 or 6. He's also starting to eat larger amounts, like 4 to 5 ounces. I think we're probably going to be graduating from these mini bottles pretty soon and going to the bigger ones. I think today I'm going to get his 2-month photos done. I'm going to measure him and weigh him. I think it'll be fun to compare how big he was at 1 month to now. I kind of wish I had a photo like that for when he was first born. But I mean, he was in the NICU, so it's not really something that I was thinking about. My goodness, you were hungry. Yeah. I've never seen you eat so fast. Let go of mommy's hair. Ow! Okay, ow. All right. Oh, you laughing? Are you laughing at my pain? What's with that face?
You think you're a funny guy? Yes, you do, you silly guy. All these toys, and yet the most interesting part of the room. Do you want to go look out the window? Okay, we'll move your bassinet by the window. Oh, this one has spit up on it. Well, since he seems sufficiently occupied, I'm gonna fill this thing up again. Sorry, Faticus, you can't go outside. Normally I let the cats go out in the side yard in the morning. I've kind of been wary of doing that lately because the other day we had a helicopter circling in our neighborhood and they were on a loudspeaker and describing a suspect and saying, "Go inside, lock your doors, do not approach the suspect." And it just made me feel very uneasy about having any doors like ajar or something. I know, you guys. Maybe when Daddy's home on the weekend, we'll let you out. Oh, Kieran's crying. That better? I really just love staring out the window. Where was I? Oh yes, in Hollywood we had helicopters like circling around our apartment building all the time, like every single day, at least once a day. But the thing is, I feel like there was like a false sense of security because we had a security guard in the building, we had a locked door that you had to get through, and then there were, hundreds of apartments to choose from if anyone was going to, break and enter, or, do a hostage situation. So yeah, there was like this false sense of security because I was surrounded by all these extra walls, and I thought, oh, for sure somebody would hear if somebody were to break into my apartment and I'm screaming, or you know what I mean? It's a bit different when you're in a house. I don't know, maybe I'm just being paranoid. It's just, there's also this extra element of I have a child now, and ever since that helicopter thing, I've been thinking about, like, what if somebody did break in because they're running from the police and, they did like a hostage situation, because that's not uncommon, unfortunately, especially in Southern California. It's not uncommon. Just has me thinking of, home security and, how can I protect us? I guess it also doesn't help that I follow the police department on Facebook in this area, so I see all of the stuff that they post. But, at the same time, it's like maybe they're able to post stuff because less crime happens in this area than, say, Los Angeles. I mean, there would never be like, hey, here's the 500 crimes that happened today in Los Angeles, on a Facebook post. But I mean, at the same time, 2 of Kameron's coworkers were mugged, one at knife point and one at gunpoint, in this area. This must be a mother thing, because I didn't really feel that on edge about this kind of stuff before, but now that I have like a creature I'm trying to protect, I'm just really thinking about him a lot and keeping him safe. And if it isn't, like worrying about stillbirth while I was pregnant, or worrying about, SIDS while he's sleeping, now it's worrying about leaving the store and going back to our car because weird stuff happens in parking lots. You know what I mean? I feel like some of you were telling me that the worrying never stops, and it's absolutely true. I feel like it's just, I'm finding new things to be like, oh God, what's gonna be, the next thing to worry about? I mean, it was just yesterday that I saw a news article about a daycare in Mississippi that was putting on scary Halloween masks and scaring and screaming at 2-year-olds to clean up the toys, and that it had been going on for a month or something. And you can see it in the video where the children are just traumatized. And I'm just like sitting here thinking, like, I shouldn't have to worry about my son going to a daycare and being traumatized. I mean, I've always known that there is evil in the world and, and unjust things that happen, but having a child really introduces you to a whole subset of evil that you never knew really existed. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to distinguish whether I'm having like postpartum anxiety or if this is just normal everyday mom anxiety. I want to say it's just normal everyday anxieties, like normal worries, because it's not like it's stopping me from engaging in life, you know what I mean? It's not stopping me from going out and doing stuff. So I want to say it's normal, But at the same time, is it wrong to be looking out the window and being like, who's out there? Getting sleepy, little guy? Getting sleepy? So yeah, I think I've been getting a hold of, my ADHD and everything, and my health and everything. And I think now that I've been back on my meds for a while, I'm starting to want to get back into the routines that really helped me manage ADHD, not just from a medication standpoint, but from like a work brain, please. I don't know why my brain's not finding the words right now, but I did a lot of journaling, and that helped me organize my thoughts and organize my day and things that I had to get done, because a lot of times the things that tend to cause me anxiety with ADHD is that I just forget something that I have to do because I get distracted by something. And, medication's not a cure-all. Unfortunately, it helps, but it's not like the answer. And I'm going to show you what I've been doing for pretty much since I was 19 years old. I have no idea where a pen is, so I'm just going to use this marker. This is actually not anything that I found or was told to do by a therapist. I actually just started doing this myself based on different things that I read in self-help books. First and foremost, I always start the day off with a to-do list. And I know some people tend to dislike to-do lists because it can make them feel more anxious because they didn't complete something. But something that I learned about in dialectical behavior therapy, especially with mindfulness and everything, is that you can't judge. So for instance, if I don't do the dishes or something, I can't sit there and make a judgment of like, wow, I'm so lazy. You really have to just forgive yourself and be like, okay, well, I'll get it done next time. I've written down the main things that I would like to get done today. Now, this does not have to be like big things like this. I would consider these things to be big things, but if say you're struggling with, depression or anxiety or just, not feeling well, you could write something as simple as make the bed, brush my teeth. The next thing that I write every single morning, or at least I used to before I got off my meds and forgot that I even do this kind of stuff, is positive affirmations. So a lot of the things that I used to write is like, I am worthy, I am loved, but I'm going to write for the first thing, I am a good mom. When I first tell people about doing the positive affirmations, especially if there's somebody that suffers with mental illness, I tell them, write the opposite of negative things that you say to yourself, because Lord knows I had a problem with a lot of negative self-talk growing up, and I did have borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed when I was 19 years old, and I've been working on it ever since, especially doing this journaling and the dialectical behavior therapy. So I would consider myself a recovered borderline. But I had a lot of negative self-talk, and there's different thresholds, there's different categories of borderline. Some people act out and, have big public outbursts. Mine was more like I went inward and attacked myself, quietly. And I did a lot of, self-harming behaviors, and I didn't really act out towards other people unless it was say a interpersonal relationship. There would be some turmoil there. But most of my borderline issues were a lot of self-hatred and a lot of negative self-talk. And one of the things that really helped change how I talked to myself was daily affirmations. And I would say in my journal the complete opposite of what I was feeling inside. So a lot of times I would, feel very unworthy of love, or I would feel ugly. So I would write the exact opposite of that. Every single day I would write, I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am loved. My psychology teacher told me it takes 18 times of positive reinforcement to change one bad thing that was said. So when I tell you it took years to rewire my brain by doing this, it took probably until I was 27 years old, from 19 years old doing this. As far as rewiring how you feel about yourself, it does take a long time. And I truly believe that you have to be ready to recover. You have to be willing and you have to want to be better and feel better more than you want to hate yourself. Not all of these have to be the opposite of what you're feeling. It can just be something that maybe you don't hear very often. Here's one that I actually really feel the opposite of. I am organized. Next thing after to do and affirmations is I write out my feelings, any negative feelings that I have, and then I write a solution. And these can be like physical feelings, these can be mental health feelings. The one that I'm feeling is very much to my stomach. I've written that I feel sick to my stomach, and not that this is necessarily a solution to like making my stomach feel better, but to make my mind feel better, I tell myself, but I know this is temporary. This is what I have been doing every single day since I was 19 years old. I mean, there's definitely been times that I've forgotten to do it. Maybe, I only do it like a couple times a week or something. But for me, it truly is the way for me to be proactive with my mental health and to just really... Gets a little cranky if he loses his binky. Where was I? Right. For me, the journaling, the dialectical behavior therapy, and the mindfulness exercises are truly the way for me to be proactive with my mental health, because medication's not enough. I like to say that the way that your brain was wired is not your fault. If you had a rocky childhood and you have PTSD or any, personality disorder, that, any kind of suffering, any kind of self-hatred, it's not your fault that your brain was wired that way. Let's be clear on that. But it is our responsibility to end generational abuse, to stop self-harming, to find non-maladaptive coping mechanisms to deal with stress and what have you in our lives. I could honestly probably talk about this subject for hours, just the amount of work that I've done on my own brain and everything that I've learned along the way in order to recover and to stay recovered, because it really is fascinating how the brain gets wired with trauma. And I think the hardest part for most people is when they have a maladaptive coping mechanism. Say, for example, something stressful happens and you have the compulsion to want to purge or something, for instance, or to use drugs or something. That coping mechanism happens at light speed, like you don't even realize it, and some people don't realize it until they've done it, and then they're like, oh fuck, I've just, done this horrible thing I shouldn't have done. For most people, the hardest part is stopping yourself in that moment and saying, you know what? This is the freeway that I take all the time to cope with this feeling. I'm going to go around on this different path. I'm going to choose the dirt road that nobody takes, that I've never taken before. And that dirt road can look like stopping and breathing. It can look like saying, you know what? I'm too riled up right now. I'm going to go cool off, and then we'll discuss this when I'm feeling better. It can look like I want to drink alcohol or take drugs, but instead I am going to choose to go for a run, or I'm going to choose to sit and breathe and meditate or do yoga. That is truly the hardest part for most people, and that's why people tend to struggle with being able to recover. But I really believe that journaling every single day, especially when you first wake up, you start the day good, and you start the day with intention, and you are able to make better choices because you really thought about it in the morning. You know what I mean? I think the other part that makes it hard for people to recover is the judgment of their behavior. They judge themselves too harshly, like, you're not going to be perfect every single time. Sometimes you will slip and do a maladaptive coping mechanism. For instance, you might, slip up and lash out at your loved one. But the important thing to do, this is actually something I learned in the 12 steps, so it's not exactly DBT or mindfulness, but well, it is kind of mindfulness, is to stop and say, you know what, I was wrong for that. I apologize. I want to change that behavior. Let me, go cool down and then we'll talk about this later. As long as you're making an effort to change behaviors that are, destructive to not only yourself, but to the people in your life, and that is progress. You don't have to be perfect and like have everything done. It's not a light switch thing. Like this is a muscle, basically. It's like working out. Like if you stop working out, then your body, all the hard work that you put in, that goes away. It's the same thing with your mental health. You have to continue to work on it, and you really have to want it. It is not perfect, but I'm telling you, doing this every day. How long has it been? Let's see, I was 19. I'm almost 36. Almost, dare not say, almost 15 years. I went from absolutely hating myself and wanting to, unalive myself every single day to being somebody that people want to be around. Okay, I think this vlog is probably way too long, but I'm going to make a list of books that really helped me, different programs that really helped me, and I will also write a template in the description box below of how to do the journaling every morning if you want to start doing that or anything. I am not a doctor or a psychologist, but it is definitely what worked for me and relieved my suffering and helped organize my life and really helped me manage my ADHD and to recover from borderline personality disorder. It worked. Anyway, this has gone way too long. I don't know how this turned into this whole talk at all. I guess that was just something that I was feeling in my heart today. I am gonna get to shooting little man's 2-month photos, and after the end screen, I'll pop the photo in there. Before I go, I just wanted to say one last thing. I know there's a lot of media coverage of borderline personality disorder lately. I don't know why. I feel like every few years some other mental illness gets the spotlight and everybody's just obsessed with it for a while. I do know that the media is tending to talk about people with borderline personality disorder as if they are evil. You are not a bad person. You're not a bad person. You're not what people are saying on the internet, the buzzwords, evil, manipulative, horrible, abusive. It's maybe, yeah, you might lash out, but I know it's not your intention to do that. And I know if you're anything like I was, you feel immense guilt afterwards and you want to change. And you can. You absolutely can. You just have to do the work. Do you want your binky? Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's the end of my TED Talk. Jesus. Thanks for coming. I am gonna turn off this camera because this is gonna turn into a 5-hour conversation if I don't. So I will see you next time. Bye.